Recording in progress.
Hey team, it is Madison Jonas. I'm hosting your Sunday Mix today. We are going off the record here, which is on the record, I guess technically. This is uneq'd, as I'd like to call it, just a random collection of rants that I have about different topics. Today we're going to be going over how AI is affecting how you can run sound as a volunteer. I wanted to start with shout out to all of my engineers who helped me come up in the business, come and learn different churches that I've worked at and volunteered at over the years. Appreciate you guys. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and get right into it. So I wanted to talk about how to empower volunteer engineers. That's the biggest reason why I set up this podcast. I set up this newsletter was to be able to help people who maybe don't live in a major metro. They don't live in big market. Maybe they're an under-resourced church. You know, maybe they're sitting in a room. Like I volunteered at a church one time in Kuwait when I was in the military. And we had this little bitty chapel with a broken soundboard that worked some of the time. And if it wasn't for a brave soul, brave friend of mine, we wouldn't have had sound. And he was the only guy that knew how to do anything with that soundboard. And because of that, we had a service, right? So you could be in a 140 degree weather somewhere on the other end of the earth, or you could be outside of a major metro, but you're still a rural area. But I created Sunday Mix because I wanted to pass on the knowledge that I've gathered. And I fully acknowledge there's plenty of sound guys out there that are much better than myself, but I also understand a lot about business and I understand a lot about leadership. And I wanted to just bring my insights and ideas to this conversation because I feel like there's a need for it. And honestly, I don't hear a lot of people talking about the things that I mention. And sometimes when I mention the things that I do to a bureaucratic church environment, usually they're shut down and violently attacked, which typically tells me that there's probably something there. So I wanted to get into how you can quickly learn what you need to learn about your soundboard and about sound in general, to be honest with you. Just there's a lot of new technology that has come out in the last few years. If you're not using AI, obviously you need to be using AI. If you don't want to use AI, that's fine. You can still listen to this. You can listen to me ramble and maybe you'll learn something, maybe you won't. But one of the great things that AI is doing for the human consciousness is it's defragging a lot of human intelligence. So I don't know if you remember the computers from the 1990s, but you used to have to defrag them. You would push a button and sit there and wait forever as your computer sort of started to, like, I don't know, just like little dots and things are just starting to, show up and do interesting things. I don't even know what a defrag does, to be honest, but it's supposed to make your computer faster, right? Well, the human collection of knowledge is fragmented. So I have my perspectives and insights, you have yours, and we're all sort of living in our own world and universe. And what happens whenever you don't have enough time to become Dante certified? You don't have enough time to read the entire collection of the Sound Reinforcement Manual by the Yamaha Sound Reinforcement Manual, and actually understand it, by the way. It's one thing to do a cursory reading of it, It's another thing to understand the damn thing because it's so thick and dense. It's written like a physics manual. So you have to start to think about AI as a learning tool. That's where a lot of people have it wrong. They're using AI to write their essays, to skip, to cheat in life. And I'm suggesting you use AI to actually learn. Use it as a learning tool, as a pedagogy tool. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was just how to use AI to quickly learn anything you need to learn about your specific situation and soundboard, especially if you're remote or isolated from any kind of resources or help. So I want to start this out by talking about, I was mixing at a large, very large multi-site church recently. And one of the problems that I noticed, and it's still shocking to me in retrospect because they're as big as they are, and I know big organizations have problems, right? communication. It's not just churches. It's every businesses have the same problem too. They grow, and then they start new startups or new plants. And then like, there's just stuff about it that even though maybe revenue's coming in and the business functionally looks good, there's still problems. So in this case, the sound engineers were siloed more or less. There was no meetings. There was no like training. There was just an expectation of perfection. And that could work, but I would argue that it doesn't need to work that way. You know, ideally you have meetings with your team and your staff, and you all come to agreement on what the objective is. And they sort of treated it like the senior pastor came up with an idea and communicated it down from the Mount Sinai, and we're all supposed to just get in line with it. But what they failed to recognize is that when you hire someone for their expertise, say you've got 3 sound guys, they all have something different to add. One's going to be better at mixing, one's going to be better at hardware, one's going to be better at tech or IT. It's just how it works, or networking. Same thing with guitarists. Some are better at lead, some are better at rhythm. And to not just accept that and use it as a strength is short-sighted to me. So one of the things that you could do immediately is to not silo your team, offer them support and training, regular meetings. But in this situation, there wasn't a lot of help, and I could have asked for help, but in this environment, it would have been seen as weak, and would have exposed me as needing things, which is interesting. One time the guitarist came up to me and he made a comment about not knowing every obscure thing about that soundboard that we were running. And I made a comment back to him that he didn't know every jazz chord and every key. So therefore he can't criticize me on the same logic. It doesn't make any sense. You got to hold it to equal standard. The truth is that you can't be an expert at everything all the time simultaneously. When it comes to guitar, you wouldn't typically be an expert at jazz and also rock and metal and this and that and classical, by the way. You kind of have to pick your lane. And with sound, it's sort of the same thing. Like, you can have a soundboard that you're comfortable with, maybe a collection of soundboards that you're comfortable with that you've run, but there's not really any practical situation where you will have run on every soundboard known to man and also know everything about every soundboard known to man and know everything about the firmware updates and this and that, and also be excellent at running the faders and blending and making something beautiful and musical. It's just an impossible standard to hold somebody to. So I don't recommend you do that. I don't recommend you do that at all. Don't hold yourself to that standard, and don't hold others to that standard. So one thing in the last couple years that's emerged is the ability to synthesize and analyze data at scale. So we look at taking tools like Grok, which is probably the best in terms of data analysis, in my opinion. I use all the AIs, but Grok, if you go take a sound manual, 400-page sound manual or whatever it is, however long, 25-page, doesn't matter. It's basically an engineering book, right? It's not really, here's how we're going to teach you to run sound. It's a engineering manual that says, here's where the transistor does this and the transducer, blah, 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 and the gain, and all these fancy charts. And it's very intimidating to look at if you've never looked at it before. Looking at polarity patterns for the first time is like, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? It's intimidating. You have to have a real desire to learn sound to get past all that stuff. So as just a volunteer, which that's the target audience of this podcast. I mean, you can be a recording guy or advanced FOH guy, but the target audience of this podcast specifically is the struggling volunteer, right? And that's why SundayMix was created. But you can take that PDF. You'll have to go hunt for it online. There's websites where you can find the PDF for your specific soundboard, but you just take that PDF and you just go drop it into Grok. Okay. And a lot of you are probably already using ChatGPT, and that's fine. It's not my favorite. I don't think it's the best for data analysis, but here's the thing. You need to be using all the AIs, and you need to be using them together because they do work together. And so you go and you take that long, complicated, manual written by a technical engineer, and you go drop that thing into Grok on a desktop. Probably not gonna be able to do that on your phone. Or you can take a section of it if you want and copy and paste it. But I like taking the whole document and just putting it in there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start to tell Grok what it is you want. You can create a project. You might need a paid account to do this. It'll be worth it, I promise. And you can say, to help you understand and learn the principles of the soundboard. So when you start to ask it questions, you can give it instructions to talk to you in a manner which is congruent with your level of understanding at the moment. So if you just started learning sound, you can say, I just started learning sound and I need you to translate what this means to me, having just started in sound. Or if you're an expert guy and you want to know like math equations and physics relate to it, I guess you could do that. I don't know why you want to do that, but you could. But the point is that you start to create a system and buffer around yourself to give yourself a little bit of extra help, some support, because a lot of times the people that are helping you learn sound may have false assumptions themselves. They might have learned something kind of like bro science. Guys in the gym, they say, well, if you do, this macro and you do 37 squats on a Tuesday at 3:74 p.m., you can, you'll cut down to 1% body fat. It's running sound is just physics. The art that we bring into it is really the magic, in my opinion. Like you've got the faders, you got the science, you got the physics, but then what you do with it, the musicianship, all the working with a team, did your musicians rehearse, all that stuff is where the magic really happens. But sometimes you can't make the magic happen if you don't know where the button is. And unfortunately, a lot of these soundboards, they don't make a lot of sense to normal people. They might make sense if you've been running it for 40 years, fine. But to normal guys who just raised their hand at a service and said, I want to learn sound and I want to help you do sound, like that, soundboards don't make any sense. They don't understand signal processing and flow and routing and Dante and all this kind of stuff. Or if you're on an analog, they don't understand how everything works and what the outputs are and the inputs and this and that and phantom power and all this kind of stuff. So having the AI take your soundboard manual, and let's say that you're trying to make the vocals a little cleaner on the EQ. You can say, how do I make the vocals cleaner on the EQ? Or maybe you don't even know that specific a question. You say, how do the vocals sound bad? How do I make the vocals not sound bad? Or if there's feedback and you don't even know what feedback means, you just know that there's a screech and it's unpleasant and you want to get rid of it. You can just ask it, how do I get rid of feedback? Walk me through. And it will. And one of the things too, you've got to be really careful with AI, which brings me to my next section, is that AI is not a perfect technology. Okay. Any experienced sound guy listening to this will go, oh, that's not true. You don't ever need to use AI to help you with anything, because what's AI going to do whenever the feedback's ringing? And that's true. That's fair. But I'm not talking about using AI while you're mixing, while you're in a live service. I'm talking about in preparation to the service. So as you're doing your preparation, you're trying to figure out problems, you're trying to problem solve all this stuff. You got to realize that AI can what they call hallucinate, which is it will lie to you very confidently. So whatever you get from it, you want to go to your soundboard, trust but verify, right? If it says to go through the thing and do this and push this button, go through it and see if it's there. And if you're thinking about macro level ideas, like how do I at a high level make the whole team sound better? You can obviously experiment with the idea and see what happens, but another thing you can do is you can take information from one AI and give it to another and say, fact check this. And it will do a quick overview of it, and you want to play devil's advocate with it. You want to poke holes in it and try to get it to give. You want it to tell you what's right and what's wrong. What you don't want to do is operate on false assumptions. And AI it's as great as it is, and it'll keep getting better and better, it'll be in part of our lives. It'll be a part of our lives in everything. That's what's coming. And it'll be used at scale like the internet is today. It'll be used for everything. And so one of the things you can do now today, AI is relatively affordable, is use it to help you learn things quickly. And it also gives you a sense of independence too, because if you were relying on, say, if you're a volunteer and you've got a technical director at your church and you're always having to ask him for things, you can skip that and just ask the AI simple questions. And if he's explaining things to you, like what's a gain structure, you don't know what gain structure is, you can just go have the AI explain gain structure to you in a manner in which, again, you understand. That's a little bit easier to understand. You can say, dumb it down for me, give me a metaphor, give me an example of how this would make sense to me. And so you just want to filter out the bad information. You want to really make sure that what you're getting is accurate. And most of the time, as long as you're using, Grok has some hallucinations. GPT for sure has some hallucinations. Gemini is actually quite solid right now, as of December 15th, 2025, quite solid. So I'll tell you that again, just as a to sound the alarm on all the criticisms I'm going to get for this, but you don't want to do all this stuff during a service. You want to get this loaded up, processed, think about everything. You can give it your specific context for your show, for your worship service, and how to improve it, how to make it better. You can almost do like an after-hour battle report with it. If you had a service and things, maybe things didn't go so well. Maybe one of the musicians was singing out of tune. Maybe one of the keyboard players playing in the wrong key. Happens. So, but you did everything you could do, right? You showed up, you turned on the soundboard, you restarted it because it had been on for 45 weeks without a refresh. You were nice to everyone, even though everyone was maybe ugly to you in the morning or super weird and introverted and doesn't say hi to anyone but in their clique. You did everything right. You showed up, you said hello, you turned on the soundboard, you restarted it, you ran the faders, you prevented catastrophic feedback. You mixed the sound so glorious that it gave you goosebumps and made everyone feel excellent, right? Joking here. We channel the Holy Spirit, I guess is what we do, or we represent the Holy Spirit. I believe when you're mixing sound, you should do it unto the Lord. You should ask God to help you run sound, help you learn sound. It's very difficult. It's a high pressure role. It's one of the highest pressure roles there is, because if it fails, there's a lot of people that are going to suffer because of it. The audience, lots of people. It's not good. Okay, so if you use AI, just be careful. It could hallucinate on you. Therefore, double check everything. Use other AIs to critique it. Go get the sound reinforcement manual, the Yamaha sound reinforcement manual. Even though it's very dense and hard to understand, go get that thing and see what it has to say, But if you're just a normal guy or gal volunteering on a Sunday and you don't have a lot of time, you got a full-time job, you're not trying to be a sound engineer, it's not your jam. You're just trying to help out your church. Just know this is a really easy way to start to get some information about this whole sound world without having to act completely dependent. And you can skip a lot of the YouTube videos like mine once you get this information, because it gives you information independence. Okay. So another thing you can do is you can program the AI to give you the page numbers of the manual. So while you're saying, I need to know about how to do a high pass filter or low pass filter, blah, 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 tell me how to do it and give me the page number it's on. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. The AI tech's still getting a little bit better. I've had it work, but you kind of have to game it a little bit, but this could help you to know where to find something. Actually, I needed a specific problem solved. The reason I sort of figured this out was I had musicians and a worship leader who they wanted everything sent to them to their in-ear monitors. They wanted everything in their ears after signal processing. So they wanted everything post-fader. So it was like, let me EQ it, let me do the reverb and the compression and stuff. And then that would get sent to them. So it really handcuffs you as a sound guy because everything you do affects them on stage. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And there is a better way. Is it do it all pre-fader, right? The soundboard was old. It was a 10 or 15-year-old soundboard. It was beat up and used, and it was a hand-me-down from a multi-site campus. But it'd been great to have a monitor board, a dedicated monitor board, and a dedicated front of house board. That would have been the way to do it, but they were on a budget, so whatever. But in lieu of that, they could have done sending the monitor mixes back to them pre-fader, and they didn't want to do that. And I don't know why they didn't want to do that. And I eventually, when I was telling them that they could do this, it was like death, silence. It's like they didn't want to hear it. And I was like, this solves our problem. You know, you guys are having a problem with what I'm doing as a sound engineer, but I can't do what I need to do as a sound engineer if it also affects you on stage, because a lot of things that sound good to you on stage are not going to sound good in the house, and vice versa. So a creative solution I found was to just do the sends to them, and they refused to do that. So whatever. But if you're a worship leader listening to this, you need to have the insight to be able to listen to your staff. You need to be able to listen to people without an ego and go, oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, let's try it. Let's just try it. Just try the idea. What you don't want to do is just blindly adhere to a dogma or a groupthink and not improve the worship setting, because it's not about us. It's not about us. It's not about how we feel. It's not about how good we are or we're not. It's not about us at all. It's about the audience. Okay. And so if the audience doesn't get the best product possible because you've got a musician on stage who can't, they need something EQ'd a certain way post fader, right? It's like, if that affects the audience, then like we need to reevaluate how we do our signal paths. So I was using AI to help find a very good solution, because this board was so old. I didn't think about it, but I found that solution, and then I presented it to them, and it just fell flat. But I was at the wrong church. That was the problem. But the thing is that if you're in the right church and you're with leadership that supports you, leadership that understands these things, what you can do is you can become a very high level problem solver really fast. And that's really what a sound guy is, or a sound girl is you're a problem solver. You hear a frequency that is harsh or unpleasing, you've got to problem solve how to fix it. You got to problem solve quickly how to fix it and how to make that thing go away. Somebody has they plug something in, it doesn't work. You got to troubleshoot that. You know, a lot of being a good sound guy is just being like a good, like the DirecTV troubleshooting guy. I actually did work for DirecTV as a troubleshooting guy at one point. So long time ago, 99% of the time it was like just reset the box and it will work. You know, just reset the box, reset your phone, reset the soundboard. Can I say that? Reset the soundboard, for the love of God. Reset your soundboard, please. So many problems show up, and then people act so surprised, like, I don't know why it's not working. I don't understand what's going on. It must be the sound guy's fault. I'm like, no, dipshit, restart it and maybe it'll work. I've told you 1,000 times, restart it and it might work this time. But don't listen to me. I don't know anything. Yeah, it's crazy. DirecTV, what a company. This would have been 2009. Just literally sat on the phone. This was one of the first work from home jobs that I ever saw. It was like 2009, and just sat on the phone for 30 minutes with people over and over and over again. And just, oh yeah, have you tried restarting it? No, haven't thought about that. I'm like, okay, well, just push this button and do the thing. And then, then you have to hard reset it. Like, you got to unplug it from the wall, right? Remember that? So yeah, reset your soundboard, please, at least once a week. Okay, moving on from that. Okay, so this whole framework, what it's going to do is it's going to give you freedom. That's really what this is about. Okay, it's about giving you intellectual freedom to not have to rely on a lot of external information, but But not only that, taking the years to come to the conclusion, the years of study required to come to the conclusion that this is the answer that's needed. Okay, that's the real big takeaway, is that when you feed the mind, when you feed the brain all this information through the PDF and the frameworks and stuff that maybe you get from me or the people you like or dislike, I'm dislikable sometimes, but you feed it with everything that you want, what you're going to find is you can ask it questions to help you reason for the solution. And the advanced guys are going to be like, well, you should just learn to be a sound guy and not have to rely on it. Okay, not talking to you, talking to someone who does this 1 hour a week, okay, and they're a full-time accountant or commercial airliner or something, and they don't have 40 years to go on tour like you did and learn the hard way. Okay, they need an answer now, and their church doesn't help them or doesn't have the resources to help them or doesn't have the leadership who has half an idea about what's actually going on. This is for them. Is you can give the AI the brain and you can have it start helping you make decisions. Something I saw a couple Sundays ago was the bass guitar. I'm actually going to write a whole issue about this here in the next week or two, but the bass guitarist was sliding up and down the fretboard, and it was making that, you know how like guitarists, when they slide their hands, it makes that noise, you know, which is very iconic of like 90s grunge music. But in a worship setting, he's the bass guitarist. This should not be coming through. So you're like, well, what the hell do I do about this? That's a new problem. You can use the AI to help you start brainstorming solutions. So rather than having to learn everything the hard way, like your FOH touring guy did, you know, you can start to rely on the leverage the AI gives us to help you start to understand what the problem even could be. Okay. And once you identify what the problem could be, you can move on to practical solutions to solve it. So again, I'll go into more detail about how to actually solve that one, but that's just an example, because the problems are endless, guys. They're endless. It's a new problem every day. And if you're not resilient and resourceful, you don't need to be behind the soundboard. That's just a fact. You don't need to be behind the soundboard. It's too much pressure. There's too much at stake. And it's really hard to run sound. It's hard to learn how to run sound because a lot of times the only way to run it is to go do it, and to do it badly, and to do it badly for a while, and then have someone over your shoulder who's good go, no, not like that, but like this. And you know, you can pull up Logic and Pro Tools on your computer, and you can record some stuff, and you can play with signal processing and all this, and you can buy some gear, and you can learn how to plug it in. You can go do an internship at a, you know, TV station or radio station. That's actually not a bad idea to learn sound, is to go. We have a community college in town that's quite good, and they have a full radio station and podcasting studio, actually. Maybe I'll use it sometime instead of my crappy Zoom camera. And you can learn a lot just by hanging out with those guys, right? But if you don't have the time, you got kids, you got a family, you got a full-time job, you don't got time for all this stuff, right? You're just trying to help out at your church. So the AI thing can really help you. And again, don't just rely on ChatGPT, guys. Like seriously, ChatGPT it was the cool first product to the market, but there's a lot of competitors out there now, and you need to explore all of them that you can. Explore Claude, explore Gemini, explore Grok, and maybe give the same information to all of them as a test and just see what it gives you back and see, you know, how they respond to data. So we're going to wrap up here. I wanted to keep this short. I got some stuff to go do today, wrapping up towards Christmas. It's been a while, guys. I haven't talked to you in a while. Haven't sent out a newsletter. It's been a crazy year. Just been hanging out, working. I run a advertising company. We do media, and it's been a crazy year, but I'm hoping to get back to it. I think 2026 is going to be a great year for SundayMix. We're going to be diving into a lot of great topics directly out of the, where's it at? Directly out of the, oh gosh, here we go. Sound reinforcement manual. Too much blur. Thank you. If you don't have this book, you need to go get it. It's not fun to read. I'll put it that way. It is not fun to read, but will improve your knowledge dramatically if you study it. And it's one of those things, it's like, I'm a classically trained pianist and vocalist and guitarist, and it's just a daily thing. You got to keep working on your skills. You got to keep working on, it's like running your scales or a guitar lick or a solo. It's like, you just need to keep doing it. And don't let people shame you for not knowing everything. That's so retarded. I can't believe people shame their volunteers and their staff for not knowing everything about everything when they themselves don't know everything about everything. Don't let people bully you guys. Don't let them bully you. They don't know crap. They've got some kind of problem that they need to go to therapy for or pray about that they haven't solved internally. Don't let them attack you and bully you for their lack of understanding and weakness themselves. All you need to do is show up and do good work and pray for those people that are deranged mentally, and just know that the church is full of very imperfect people, and therefore you need to be the light. You need to be the one with a good attitude anyway, the one who says, well, nobody says hi to me, so I'm just going to show up anyway and do a good job anyway. Or if that's too hard, leave and go find a church where the environment might be a little bit better and you do feel appreciated. But at the end of the day, you don't need to know everything to be a good sound guy. You need to know how to run some faders, how to solve feedback, basic understanding of gain structure and signal processing, basic, very basic. Understand a little bit about EQ and compression, know how to blend a group of singers, and know how to, I would say probably the hardest thing about running sound is actually knowing what good sound sounds like. And the only way to know what good sound sounds like is to listen to a lot of music live. I got this, who was it? I went to that live, oh my gosh, what's it called? Life Surge? Yeah, Life Surge. This is pretty good event. They teach people Christians how to do business and stuff. Anyway, but they had some really good worship leaders come on, and the sound guys that were running it were really good sound guys. And I was excited to get to hear premium sound quality. We were in the Oklahoma City Stadium where the Thunder plays. And I was really excited to get to hear good, well, not just good, but really good sound. And when you hear really good sound, you go, why? Or if you get an emotional reaction to a worship service, or you're at a normal secular concert or something, and you have to ask yourself why. You start getting goosebumps. You start feeling a certain way. Maybe you get chills, but you have a physical response to what's going on in the room. And you need to just get in the habit of asking yourself, why do I feel that? What was it about it? And as you get a larger vocabulary and you start to run sound more and more yourself, you get more experience. You start to be able to name these things and why it might happen. For me personally, it's usually a good vocal blend, I just assume the guitarists are going to be good. I assume the bass player knows what he's doing. The drummer knows what he's doing, But I'm trying to get this thing pulled up a little bit. But the unsung heroes, other than the sound guys, in my opinion, are probably the vocalists. A lot of churches, the ones that do pay their musicians, they don't pay vocalists. It's weird. Like, why wouldn't you pay for a good singer? The singers have to go through, in some cases, more rigorous training than instrumentalists do. And plus, there's a lot of weird psychology with the voice because the voice is your body. So if someone says, you can't sing, or I don't like your sound, or I don't like your tone, you almost take it personal, because when they attack you or attack your voice, they're in some ways attacking you. I know that's not what they intend most of the time, but it's difficult because you've got to navigate a lot of mental hoops that I don't think instrumentalists have to go through. And then there's the whole thing about memory, language, having to memorize your songs, and just the difficulty of that. Some people are good at that. I'm not good at that particularly. That actually propelled me into running sound, because I didn't have to memorize, 4 stanzas of lyrics. The church people got it easy, really easy. They have confidence monitors on the backs of their walls and on their stages, man. when I studied voice in college, it was like, here, go learn these art songs and arias and all these different languages, and then memorize them all and get up on stage with no notes from memory and stand and deliver. It takes it takes a lot to do that. It's very difficult. So anyway, but yeah, we're gonna be having a really great year, guys. 2016 is gonna be awesome. I'm hoping to do some partnerships with different people in the business. I've got some names on my list that I want to go after. These are people who are very well respected in our industry, Christian, obviously, but people we can partner with to monetize SundayMix. It's been tough. It's been tough to get this thing off the ground. It costs money to run Beehive, the newsletter platform. It costs money to write, time and energy, but I do it because I love you guys. I do it because I love you. A lot of y'all have written me back, and I appreciate all the nice things that you've had to say. And some of my critics too. Some of my critics have been very violent, attacking me on social media about what I've had to say. But, I just stand on stage to make it easier for them to throw things at me. So, but I love them too. I love my critics. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hit like and subscribe. Share this with a friend. If you're not in our community, go to sundaymix.co, sundaymix.co.co/subscribe. And you can sign up for our free newsletter where we're giving out free tips on how to improve your sound every week, how to turn your church sound into pro level sound quickly. Okay, we don't want to sit here for 4 or 5 years to learn how to know what gain is. That's not our goal here. But so I created the newsletter as content. We're going to be doing these podcasts a little bit more. Hopefully, I'll get a better camera here soon. And then we're going to have the community, and the community is just a place where we can hang out. It's not a Facebook group. It's currently it's in Skool, Skool, SundayMix and Skool.com. And currently it's free, but after about 100 members, we'll probably gatekeep it at $1. I've noticed with some of these platforms, you've got to charge something, or you just get invaded by bots and low quality members. So low quality meaning they're not low quality people, but just they don't engage, they don't check in, they don't comment. So we're going to be building a really high quality community full of people who love sound, and they love worship music, and they love people. Like, they actually read their Bibles, and they want to get better, and they're not afraid to speak their mind and try to improve things. And the church, like it's a complicated world, especially as for a business guy like me who thrives on efficiency, and like bureaucracy drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. I'm like, no. I don't care how you people feel. This is the result. So like, I've got to tone it down a little bit to be more agreeable with others. But my default is, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. This is the answer. You need to implement it. And they're like, I don't like how you sound, and tone police me. But I'm like, okay, well, here's the sound reinforcement manual on page, let's see here, section 14.3.2, how compressor limiters work, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, well, and then, shut up. So we're going to be having some fun. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things, not just sound, but leadership. We're going to be talking about stuff to help improve teams, how to improve culture, how to improve camaraderie, which ironically, having better culture and better teams will create better sound. This is one of the most overlooked things I've possibly seen in the whole sound world. People don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. There's endless podcasts and YouTube videos and Reddit threads and all this stuff about, here's how you get the best gear and the best plugin and the best this and that to achieve this, Abbey Road sound and stuff like that. But nobody's talking about, like, how do I build a team of winners, and how do we like all move in the same direction, and how do we resolve conflict? How do we forgive each other? How do we forgive ourselves? How do we ask God to help us, in our brokenness? Like, how do we do all this stuff? How do you navigate 30 to 50 to 100 different personalities who are all, somewhat twisted in their own, respective ways? I'm twisted in my respect. I'm I'm way too over domineering. Like I'm just high agency guy. Like I'm not gonna put up with stuff that's stupid, and I don't have a lot of tolerance for it anymore. I used to be such a nice guy. I'm not a nice guy anymore. My family and friends say I'm a nice guy. I am a nice guy, but you know what I'm saying. It's like I don't have time to sit here and explain this to you. It's on page 157. Can we just get it done, please, so this stuff can work? And then you have other people who don't know how to handle conflict at all, so they're super passive aggressive, and they don't know how to do anything. So I digress, but I think it's going to be really exciting what 2026 is going to bring. I'm going to be diving into a whole lot of different topics. We're going to continue our series on Microphone Mondays. I'm excited to get that going again. We're going to be talking all about different kinds of microphones, how to use them. If the community gets big enough and there's enough demand, I'll start creating some custom content. Also, I plan to have, again, it depends on the community's response, but if we don't have anybody show up, I suck, I guess. But if we do have a lot of people show up and it starts to grow, I'm going to be bringing in panelists and expert people to host calls. And so we'll hop on a Zoom call once a month. We'll record it, probably charge a small fee just to keep the lights on. But it'll have practitioners in the field. Excuse me. These are like technical directors, people who have got years and years of experience running at the highest level on how they approach problems. And we can do Q&A sessions, Q&A. We can do hosted content to just kind of like, what are the needs of our group today? What are people struggling with most? And then create things around that to solve those problems for you guys. Because a lot of you, again, you're not doing it every day, right? Like me, I'm running a advertising company and I'm doing it, like I've got the certifications, I've got the years of experience, I've got degrees in the works, right? But like, I'm not living at a church every day. I don't want to. I don't want to be a worship pastor. I don't want to be a front of house guy. You know, maybe one day I'll start a church and then I'll help lead one, but that's not really what I want to do in life. If I can run sound 3 or 4 days a week or even 2 days a week, with a church that's supporting and appreciates high quality, excellent sound, and has the equipment and the vision to see it and execute on it, and they're not pansies, then yeah, fine, I'll work with them. But in general, most people, and myself included, we're not running sound every day of the week. So we have to find ways to cope where we can get answers to our problems quickly, and those answers are not gate kept. They're not gate kept by YouTube videos where you got to go hunt and find it. They're not gate kept by crazy books written in physics language that will take a master's degree to understand. How do we make sound democratized? Like how do we make it so it's accessible, so it's easy to understand and digest and implement, right? And we're not just thinking about how to do sound, but when we get to the soundboard and we actually turn it on and everything, you know, we start mixing the musicians and stuff. At the end of the day, the audience, what they're getting is a premium, superb product. No matter the room, no matter, again, whether you're in a, you know, shitty little, I don't even know what that was, like a shack in Kuwait when I was in the Navy. Just a dump, you know, in the middle of the desert, but we held church there. And it was awesome. Right. Working on the oldest soundboard known to man that had so much dirt and sand in it, it was probably shorted out. So whether you're over there, doing that, or you are in the nicest church with all the newest technology and, you know, everything, you got MXU where you can learn every week. You got all this stuff. You got technical directors walking around. All the band leaders and worship leaders all know how to do all this stuff too. So whether you're the least resourced or the most resourced, how do we make sound accessible for more people? Because there's a lot of people who want to learn to do it better, but for whatever reason, they haven't. And I know the answers for why that is, but we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I appreciate you guys. Again, hit like and subscribe. Hit the down arrow button if you think I'm a turd, but that's all right. Come back next time. And subscribe at sundaymix.co. We love you very much. We'll see y'all next time.